So I finally found the engine for the Caddy. It's an Audi TT with a 3.2 VR6 engine.
My Volkswagen Caddy. It's come a long way since I first introduced it to the channel, and we've done a lot of modifications. We've done a chassis notch and we fitted a rear roll pan. We redone the interior loom to fix any problems. We also fitted sound deadening to the interior, and the Caddy has had a full respray. In the last episode, we went through everything that you need for a 1.9 TDI conversion, and then we removed the diesel engine from the Caddy.
So that moves us on to today's episode. If you haven't already read the title, we're doing another engine swap. Over the holidays, I built another garage with my dad over here, so I have a place to keep the Caddy. This is the old side of the garage, and now I have enough space to bring a donor vehicle in.
Introducing the Audi TT, a masterpiece of precision engineering and timeless design, manufactured from 2006 to 2014. This iconic sports car has left a mark on the automotive world, seamlessly blending performance and style. Underneath its sleek exterior lies a range of powerful engines that define the driving experience. One standout option is the 3.2 litre V6 engine, a powerhouse that shares its DNA with the legendary Golf R32. The specs of this remarkable 3.2 litre engine, boasting an impressive 250 brake horsepower and 320 Nm of torque. It propels the Audi TT from 0 to 60 in just around 5.3 seconds.
I managed to find this crash damaged Audi TT for quite cheap. The mileage is quite low, so it'll be the perfect car for an engine donor. Clearly the front has been damaged and the front windscreen is smashed. The whole headlight, the front bumper and the bonnet is damaged, and then opening the bonnet you can see that the front ride pack is all damaged. When I went to check the car, I just made sure that there's no damage to the engine, which all looks okay. So that means that this will be the perfect engine for the Caddy. The two front airbags have been deployed, so the passenger and the driver's side, but overall the interior is looking quite clean, so I might be able to sell some of the stuff for the interior. So with the rear, it's quite straight and neat, so hopefully I can sell some of these parts as well. It's a bit sad that we're taking this TT apart, but you have to admit this engine is going to look so cool in the Caddy. I believe from watching videos online that I can strip the whole front end, get the rad pack out, the front bumper, and then it will allow me to disconnect everything else to get the engine out. So let's get on with it. I've got a lot of work ahead of me and I'm going to start stripping the front end off. So before I start, there's something that I've always wanted to do. Safety first, and I'm going to get my glasses on.
So the first thing to come off is the bonnet. Just undoing all of the washer lines and then unbolting it from each side. The next bits to come off are the headlights. Undoing the two torque screws at the top and then two at the bottom allows the headlight to just slide out. Most of the bumper was damaged, so it wasn't that hard to get it off. There were just some screws holding it on the arch liner, and then I was able to just pull it straight out. Once the front bumper was removed, I had access to the crash bar and the core support at the front. Just a case of unbolting everything and taking it off.
I've got everything off the front of the car now, so we're just left with this. All of the bumper, the radiator, and this is the pile of the parts that I've taken off already. So now everything from the front has been removed. I can start unplugging plugs down here and removing everything that's connected to the engine at the front. Also, I've started removing some of the plugs at the top here for the coil packs. So I just need to work on removing everything from the engine on this side and the back, and then removing the drive shafts and the gearbox. Hopefully then I can lift up the engine and then bring it out.
Or tip if you're thinking of doing the same thing, if you're removing some of the plugs, it helps to use a pick to remove it from the connector, as sometimes they get a bit brittle and you don't want to squeeze on the plug as it could break, and then you'll have to find a replacement plug. To get to the rear prop shaft bolts, I had to remove the subframe, which meant I had to remove both side hubs, so I decided to remove both of the suspension arms as one whole unit to save some time. So it's finally time to remove the subframe, so I just undone all of the bolts and then unplugged the steering rack from the subframe. There's the bolts for the prop shaft which had to come off, and also the exhaust pipe bolts. They were quite rusty, so I just sprayed it with some WD-40, let it sit for a while, and then I was able to unbolt them. Once they were unbolted, I just knocked the exhaust pipe with a screwdriver and they came apart, nice and easy. Now it's time to pull the engine from the TT. Working side by side with my dad, it's more than just mechanical tasks, it's a chance to connect and share memories. As we remove the engine, there's a sense of nostalgia, like turning back the clock when my dad first showed me the ropes. This isn't just about pulling out an engine, it's about creating long-lasting memories. It reminds me that this is just what working on cars is all about, creating memories and chilling out with your friends and family in the garage. Let's lift this engine, not just in metal, but in shared experiences. Ready for the next chapter for the life of this 3.2 engine.
So the engine is fully out of the TT now. The only thing that is left for me to remove is the wiring loom. I've put it in a plastic bag at the moment so it doesn't get dirty, and so when I walk past I don't stand on it. The engine is over here, but we'll work on that a little bit later. I still need to remove some of the parts from the TT. Hopefully I can sell some of it and get some money back towards what I paid for the car. But I won't bore you guys with making you watch me take off all of the parts, so with the power of editing. So the TT's been fully stripped. It looks super weird with nothing in the engine bay and the interior is looking super empty. So there's so many parts laying around the garage, so I need a good tidy up to get some room to work around here. The next step is trying to get the TT out of the garage. So now we've got the TT removed from the garage, we can start working on the engine. So to paint the engine, we need to remove some of the things on there. So if we can get the alternator off, the air conditioning pump,
the oil cooler and the lines, and also I think these are some vacuum pumps down here. The engine block isn't too bad, it just has a little bit of surface rust down here and a little bit of dirt, so I'll get that all cleaned up. Also, just while I'm down here, I'm looking at the valves and they're all super clean. We also need to remove the gearbox, as I'm not using the automatic gearbox that came on this engine. So I'll get on to stripping this down and we can get straight on to painting the engine. First step of cleaning up the engine block is using a wire wheel on a drill, just going around removing most of the light dirt and rust, so the paint will stick nicely and the surface is all smooth. The next step is degreasing the block, so I sprayed some degreaser all over the engine block to remove any of the dirt and oils left on it. Okay, so the first step, the cleaner degreaser, has been done. So it's looking quite good for me to move on to the next step as soon as all of this water dries off. So the next step is the metal prep. So I've read the instructions on it. You can either brush it on or spray it on. So what I'm going to do is put it in a spray bottle, spray it over the engine, and maybe use a brush and brush it in some places. Once it was all dry, I masked up the engine and then sprayed the first coat of high temperature silver enamel paint. So the next step is going to be putting the rust preventative on the block. So I'm just going to use a sponge brush that they provided and a normal brush and just paint it on, just being careful not to get it onto the new silver that I've just painted. Altogether I've done about 3 coats of paint. This engine won't be rusting anytime soon. Now the engine's painted, we can move on to the next step, which will be getting the engine built back up. I went to Audi and got loads of replacement parts for it, so we'll get them all stuck back on the engine. I haven't showed you guys the final result yet, so stick around and make sure you watch to the end of the video. After we get the engine done, we can move on to the next step. The first O-rings to fit are onto the crack pipe. All of the replacement rubber seals and gaskets I got directly from Audi. This is a brilliant time to change them as the engine's out of the car. Also, I didn't want to put the engine back in and then have leaks down the road. When fitting the new rubber seals, I applied some rubber grease so it creates a nice seal. Moving on, another seal to go onto the thermostat housing, and then to fit the thermostat housing back onto the engine. There are 2 seals on the oil filter housing. I'm just putting these in and then I can get it bolted to the engine. Some of the parts I painted the same colour as the Caddy just to spruce up the engine and make it look a little bit better. It's time to fit on the alternator. I sprayed this black, but I didn't take it apart. It was quite hard because I didn't have the correct tools, so I just sprayed it and covered up all of the holes. I think it looks quite good in matte black. What do you guys think? The last step is getting the valve cover gasket on and then getting it fitted to the engine. While editing the video, I noticed I should have put some silicone in the corners of the gasket. I'll do that before I fit the engine into the car.
So I managed to find a gearbox that goes onto the VR6 engine, and I'll be able to use it for the swap for the Caddy. The gearbox I chose to go with is O2J from a V5 Mark IV Golf. From doing a lot of research online, it says that I have to use one from a 6-cylinder or 5-cylinder engine. The ones that people use for the 1.8 turbo swaps and the PD130 swaps won't go in because the bell housing is different on them gearboxes, so I had to track one down. They're quite hard to find on the Mark III Golf, so I ended up going with the one from the V5 Mark IV Golf. So as you can see, this gearbox is quite dirty and it needs a quick refresh. So let's get this painted up and reassembled.
With the gearbox, I wasn't too sure if I should spray it silver or black, but I went with black in the end and I think it came out quite nice. And then some of the other parts I done in cashmere white, which is the same colour as the Caddy. When rebuilding back things I've taken off the gearbox, I was just making sure they're all seated properly and then torquing them down to the spec that I found online. The final thing to go back on is the shifter cable bracket, which is held on with 3 bolts, and then I just torque them all down.
That's it now. The engine and the gearbox have been sprayed and we're ready for the next step. As you can see, the engine and the gearbox are looking beautiful now, and I think with the colours matched, it's going to look so good when it's in the engine bay. So there's still a lot of parts that I need to get for the engine. There's loads of conversion parts and I'm figuring it out as I go along. So if you guys have any tips for me of what I need, or just in general if you've done the swap and you have some tips that you can advise me on, please let me know down in the comments section below. That's it for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. There'll be more VW Caddy VR6 engine swap videos coming soon. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. you.